What is up, my fellow nerds, gamers, and geeks? My name is Kryn, and today I'm going to be bringing you a Windwalker monk guide. Okay, so the very first thing that is the key to being successful as a Windwalker monk and doing a lot of DPS is you gotta have a good transmog, okay? You cannot play good without looking good. You gotta look good to play good, alright? So, first thing you're going to need to do is go to your transmogrifier, okay? And you got to get a good transmog going. And I'm not talking like just one specific set. No, you got to mix and match and make it look good. Okay, I'm just joking. Transmogs don't matter as much as your talents. Now, your talents are going to be the first thing I'm going to be looking at. Level 15 talents, Celerity, Tiger's Lust, and Momentum are all viable. I mainly just choose Tiger's Lust so I can break roots and snares. Now, your level 30 talents, these are going to be where the choices start to matter. Chi Wave is very good for dungeons. Basically, you're going to send out a wave of chi that bounces around between enemies and friendlies, dealing damage to the enemies and healing friendlies. Zen Sphere is going to be your best single target option, and it really shines in a raid environment. Number one, because it's going to be a consistent source of healing. Number two, because as long as you keep it active, it's going to be doing more single target DPS than the other options. Chi Burst. It has a cast time and it has a 30-second cooldown. Now that's not bad. It just means that it's suited for specific situations. It is best used against adds that need to die really quick because it's your best burst option in this tier. Your level 45 tier, you have Power Strikes, Ascension, and Chi Brew. Power Strikes is going to be complete garbage for Windwalker. Disregard that one completely, never take it. Ascension and Chi Brew, however, are basically, you're going to choose between the two of them based on your level 100 talent. Chi Brew is going to be your best single target option, while Ascension is going to become your best AoE option. Your level 60 talents, never take Ring of Peace. It's complete garbage in dungeons and raids. Never take it. That means you're left charging Ox Wave and Leg Sweep. I take Leg Sweep because it stuns all enemies within 5 yards of you for 5 seconds. Charging Ox Wave is basically it's a targeted ability, so you have to face correctly when you use it. It's on a 30-second cooldown and it only stuns for 3 seconds. However, the advantage of it is that it can stun ranged adds because it goes out in a wave 30 meters in front of you, or 30 yards, excuse me. Your level 75 talents. Again, a very important tier. It comes to survivability here. Now, healing elixirs is probably going to be your default, mainly because it's passive. You don't have to do anything with it, and it's a very good heal. 15% every 18 seconds is not bad. Now, Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic can outperform healing elixirs in certain situations. Those being fights when you're going to take AoE damage consistently and you're going to be able to use it every 1.5 minutes effectively. So for Dampen Harm, really good against physical damage, any sort of physical damage. Diffuse Magic is obviously going to be for magic damage. Now 50% reduction on physical damage for the next 3 attacks is really good, and Diffuse Magic, which is a 90% reduction on all magic damage for 6 items, is amazing. It's completely amazing on AoE magic fights. Your level 90 talent, for single target, you're always going to want to take Invoke Zuen. The reason being is Rushing Jade Wind is only good against 5 adds or more that can stay up for an extended period of time. Chi Torpedo, it's good if you need to burst down adds. It actually does quite a bit of damage, and you can burst down adds fairly quickly with this Chi Burst and Chi Explosion. Which brings me to my level 100 talent choice. Serenity. You are going to want to take this regardless of anything if it is a single target fight. This is going to be your absolute best single target ability. Chi Explosion. It's good. It is actually very good, but only when fighting adds. This is going to be something that you're going to want to take with Ascension, and only Ascension. You never want to take Chi Brew with Chi Explosion. because you want that extra chi and the extra energy regeneration with Chi Explosion, because when you use Chi Explosion, it can consume up to 4 Chi. So it's a very, very complicated ability to kind of get your head wrapped around, but when you do, it is an amazing ability for ad fights. Hurricane Strike, it's on a 45-second cooldown, and it's not as good as the others. However, it does have its place. For fights where a ad needs to die really quickly, so you can burst it down pretty easily, or where there are spots where a boss will take extra damage in a short window of time, that's when you're going to want to take Hurricane Strike. However, again, your default is most likely going to be Serenity. Okay, now let's take a look at your glyphs. Your glyph choice is going to be extremely important. Again, just like your talents were, but in a different way. Glyph of the Floating Butterfly is going to be a staple. You are always going to want to have this. The reason being is that Fist of Fury is your highest DPS ability. And it is only your highest DPS ability when you can get a complete cast off. If your cast fails in the middle of it, you are going to lose out on DPS. So being able to move while channeling the ability is very, very important, even if you do lose out on the stun. But again, let's face it, most bosses can't be stunned anyways, and same for a lot of ads in raids, so it doesn't really matter on the stun. Your second glyph that I am going to say is going to be another staple, and you are almost always going to want to have this, is Touch of Karma. The reason being is that you do not want to have this on glyphs and have to be standing right next to your target in order to be able to use it. Because sometimes you have to create separation in order to drop an AoE away from the group or something, but you still want to be able to use Touch of Karma to get out of that damage and still deal some DPS. So having a 20-yard range is amazing. Your third and final glyph option is going to be up to you. I take Touch of Death almost 99% of the time. The reason being is that when you are fighting a boss, you're probably only going to be able to get one Touch of Death off anyways in a single target fight against that boss. Because the boss is not going to stay in their 10% phase very, very long. So, in most cases, Touch of Death can pull out ahead. However, on an ad fight like Kilrog, where the hulking terrors need to die quick, you might want to change this glyph to something like, say, Glyph of Transcendence, so you can get a reduced cooldown on your Transcendence transfer so you can do it more often, or Zen Meditation, so that way you can move while channeling Zen Meditation. The reason I say that is, if you can get more Touch of Deaths off in an ad fight like that and kill ads that need to die faster, that is amazing. So that pretty much does it as far as glyphs go. The rest of the glyphs aren't really all that great, but that's just me. If you find one that meets your niche, that's great, but these are probably going to be your best ones for putting out the most DPS and having the most survivability. The next thing I'm going to cover with you guys is going to be your gearing and your stat priority. So your stat priority is going to read like this: Agility, Multi-Strike, Versatility, yes, I did just say versatility, then Crit, then Haste, and then Mastery. Mastery is going to be your worst stat as a Windwalker. You want to stay away from that. Our Mastery sucks. We have a chance to generate an extra Tiger Eye Brew charge, which isn't all that great anyways. So, again, you're going to want to gear for Agility, Multi-Strike, Versatility, Crit, Haste, and Mastery. It used to be the other way around with Versatility and Crit. Crit used to be higher than Versatility, but after the 6.2 changes, Versatility actually pulled ahead. So if you can get gear that has Multi-Strike and Versatility, which some of it does, that is going to be your best stat gain as far as that's concerned. So that about does it for your gearing and your stat priority. So the next thing I want to talk about is going to be your rotation and your priority system. So a Windwalker Monk is actually one of the more complicated classes, I would say, to play effectively. you have a lot of abilities. As you can see, my entire bar is basically full, and I use almost every single one of them. However, a lot of them are also situational. So take, for example, Storm, Earth, and Fire. It's a great ability, but it's one of those abilities that I see a lot of monks not utilizing correctly. The only time you're ever going to want to use this is obviously when you're killing adds, or when it is a cleave fight, such as Hellfire High Council. If you can get all 3 of the copies of yourself on each individual boss that you are not attacking, that is going to lead to a higher DPS for you, and it's also going to help out the raid. Now, you might not think so, because typically you want to burn one of the bosses in that fight, but it does help out a lot, because it makes it so that the other bosses that you need to burn later on in that phase don't have as high as a health pool. So this one is a very, very important one, but I see a lot of Windwalkers that will actually put it out on one of the targets they're attacking. You never want to do that. Never. It reduces your damage so much it's not even worth using at that point. So, let me just go over your basic rotation here. So, you're going to want to have Jab, Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and you're also going to want to have Invoke Zuen and Serenity as your kind of your staple abilities here. You're also going to want to have Chi Brew readily available to be able to hit. So, the way a Windwalker rotation goes is you're basically going to want to start the fight off by generating Chi. You don't want to go into a fight without any Chi. So you want to sit there before the fight and you want to actually use Expel Harm to build your Chi. The reason being is that the more Chi you have at the start of a fight, that means the more Tiger Eye Brew you're actually going to generate before the fight, or once the fight starts. So that's going to help out a lot. So once you actually get your Chi up to 5, what you're going to want to do once the fight starts is I'm actually going to start it at 4 here. I typically will do Tiger Palm twice to get the buff up. Now you want to keep this buff up, and the only reason I do it twice is so that way I only have 3 Chi here. So that way when I do my Rising Sun Kick, I can use Chi Brew twice, and then I can pop Zuen and Serenity. And then you just basically, you want to spam Blackout Kick and the Rising Sun Kick, excuse me. Then you want to pop Tiger Eye Brew in the middle of that. And before the buff actually falls off, and I didn't do a good show there, you want to actually use Fist of Fury so it doesn't cost any Chi for you. Because Fist of Fury is your largest Chi consuming ability as a Windwalker. So I'm actually going to let all my cooldowns reset and show you that in full speed. But the very, very key thing here about playing a Windwalker correctly is you never want your buffs to fall off. So you never want Tiger Power to fall off, and you don't want Rising Sun Kick to fall off of the boss or the target that you're attacking. You never want that to happen. And you also don't want your Zen Sphere to fall off either. You want to keep that up 100% of the time. And typically every 10 seconds, whenever it comes off cooldown, I will refresh it. So here, I will come back to you in a second as soon as all my cooldowns are off, and I will show you the proper rotation, the proper burst rotation, and the sustained rotation. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've been building Chi with Expel Harm, and I have Zen Sphere up. I'm going to refresh that before I go in, and once I go in, I'm going to Tiger Palm twice. Do a Rising Sun Kick, pop Chi Brew twice, then invoke Zuen and Serenity and spam Blackout Kick and Rising Sun Kick until I hit 10 Chi Brew. Then I'm going to pop Chi Brew as soon as I hit that and go into a Fist of Fury before Serenity wears off. Then I'm just going to follow a priority system of using Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and keeping my buffs up. However, once I get Fist of Fury off cooldown, I'm going to pop my Tiger Eye Brew no matter what the stack is and go into a Fist of Fury. You're going to benefit the most from Fist of Furying off cooldown and using Chi Brew whenever that's up. Now, as you go on, you're going to become a little energy starved, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. your auto attacks are still pretty good DPS, so you don't have to worry if you become energy starved. That's just a part of the class, unfortunately, because haste isn't as good as it was back in Siege of Overlord. You're also going to want to use Chi Brew as soon as it comes off cooldown, whenever you can. So you're just going to want to keep following that priority system of Fist of Fury is your #1 thing once all your buffs are applied. But as far as you're concerned, you want to keep Rising Sun Kick buff on the target, you want to keep your Tiger Power up, and you also don't want your Zen Sphere to not be reapplied. You want to keep reapplying that, and whenever your Fist of Fury comes off cooldown, you want to use Fist of Fury. Now, you're also going to want to use your Serenity as much as possible, because you want your Serenity and your Invoker's Wind to come off cooldown at around the same time so you can do that burst rotation again. As you can see, I'm sitting right at about 27k to 28k DPS throughout this entire fight. And that's without any flasks, without using potions, or without raid buffs. So, as you can see, when you do your rotation correctly, it's actually a fairly good class to use as far as DPS is concerned. It may not outperform some of the other heavy hitters right now, like DKs or whatever, but a well-played Windwalker monk is definitely noticeable. And you do also have your niches, like we definitely shine on a fight like Hellfire High Council, because you can use your Storm, Earth, and Fire, and you will actually put out a really good amount of DPS. And even without cleave fights like that, you still put out some really respectable DPS. Now, my cooldowns are almost up here, so at this point, I'm just trying to keep my buffs up and trying to conserve chi. Now, again, you're going to see I'm going a little bit energy starved, but that's fine. You're going to gain a lot of energy back once you use your cooldowns again, because you're not going to be using any energy at all. You're just going to be using no chi pretty much for about 10 seconds with Serenity, and you basically have a lot of resources. So here we go again, just going through that rotation and using your burst rotation. And I'm going to be cutting off the fight here pretty shortly, because there's no point in continuing after this point, because you've seen the rotation, and hopefully now you know what to do so you can help practice yourself, basically. And that's really it for the rotation. It's pretty simple. The difficulty comes in trying to keep the buffs up, and that's where a lot of people fall short. They don't realize that they need to keep those buffs up, or they just pick wrong talent choices. And talent choices as a monk are really what matter. Alright, so that does it for this guide. I really hope it helped some of you guys out. I'm looking forward to maybe doing some more content for you guys, and if you guys, from the bottom of your heart, want to help me out, if you could leave me a like, a comment, or even subscribe, that would be amazing. Keep nerding on, and until next time, this was Kren.